Maria Munoz was a healthy and vibrant Texas mother whose life unraveled before her very eyes. She died at the young age of 31. Toxicology reports revealed that she had 7 different surgical drugs injected into her system. How did that happen? Was it an accident or a carefully orchestrated murder? The evidence was scanty at first until investigators found the key that unlocked the mysteries. Her husband's inconsistencies helped to unravel the mystery. Who killed Maria Munoz and why? The answer is a chilling story of betrayal and shattered trust. Who is Maria Munoz? Maria Munoz was a 31-year-old woman married to Joel Pelot. They had 2 sons, Alejandro and Valentino. She was a stay-at-home mother living in Laredo, Texas. She took her children to the park on her free days and read to them before they went to bed. Maria was a dedicated mother. She was learning to play the piano and planning to resume her career before her tragic demise. Meanwhile, she met her husband Pelot in Puerto Rico when he was a nursing student. They tied the knot in 2011 and moved to Texas. There, he landed a lucrative job as a nurse anesthetist. He worked at Doctors Hospital in Laredo and was dedicated to his career. He spoke to his colleagues about Maria and his 2 sons. He showed them pictures and talked about family life. Surprisingly, his commitment to his family was half-hearted, paving the way for a horrific twist. Their seemingly happy married life crumbled when Maria uncovered a devastating truth. Apparently, Pelot had been cheating on her, and she didn't know. One day, she found an airline ticket for a European vacation he had planned with his colleague. The situation escalated when she saw his car outside her home. She threatened to divorce him, but Pelot would not take things lightly. He yelled at her, cursed her, and smashed his windshield. Maria's husband eventually moved out of the house to be with his girlfriend. He had moved on. But on September 21, 2020, Pelot visited his former home, pleading to meet Maria. He asked that they have a heart-to-heart conversation about their marriage. This meeting ended in tragedy. The deadly meeting. In the early morning of September 22, 2020, police officer George de la Cruz received a chilling call. It was from Joel Pelot, a father of 2. He reported that his wife was unresponsive and he believed she had taken some pills. He broke down in tears as he inquired if the police were coming immediately. The police dispatched a team led by de la Cruz to the house on Canyon Oak Drive. Of course, his body camera was actively recording events as they unfolded. The first point of contact was the staircase near the main bedroom, where they found Joel Pelot dressed in teal surgical scrubs. He was performing CPR on his wife, Maria Munoz. The young man panicked and was in tears. De la Cruz took over, hoping to revive the unconscious woman. By then, she was still warm and had a tendency to survive. As de la Cruz desperately tried to save Maria, he asked Pelot if she took any drugs. Her husband confirmed that she may have taken some pills. As the CPR session continued, Pelot opened a medicine cabinet and took out a pill container. The supposed drug she ingested was clonazepam. This prescription drug is used to treat anxiety. It was originally prescribed for Pelot and not Maria. Why did Maria take it? Officer de la Cruz was curious, but he continued with the session. Pelot explained that his wife was struggling with a lot lately, prompting her to self-administer drugs. By now, Maria was not responding, but the police and paramedics did not give up. They were struggling to save the life of the young wife and mother. Minutes later, more hands arrived, and de la Cruz had time to look around. Shockingly, he realized that the pill container he had beside him was missing. Pelot had taken them along as he went downstairs, suggesting he was hiding something. Maria Munoz was declared dead at 3:58 a.m. that morning. Investigations began almost immediately. Police asked Joel what happened to his wife. He gave his side of the story. He claimed that after they had sex, she was knocked out, and before he got back upstairs, she was unconscious. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he recounted the incident. Yet something was off. Officers didn't buy his story, not just yet. His appearances sold him put. First off, Pellet was sweaty and restless. It was unusual for him to be in that state. Lead investigator, Sergeant Luis Mata, was confused. He wondered if it was suicide, overdoser, or if Pellet was involved. Mata applied for a search warrant and delved into action. While the search was on, Pellet was taken to the police station for interrogation. Interrogating Joel Pellet. When Pellet arrived at the police station, he was taken into the interrogation room. Pellet's behavior was strange from the beginning. The young man moved the furniture around. He yelled at himself and scared people close to him. When Mata entered the room, Pellet told his side of the story. He told the police that he visited his former home, asking his wife to give him time to break things off with his girlfriend. Unfortunately, Maria didn't take things lightly. She was already talking to a lawyer about the way forward. Pellet added that he was undecided about what he wanted to do, but Maria kept pressuring him. She gave him two options. He would either return to his family or she would move on with her life. He was heartbroken knowing she was walking away. Maria Munoz was trying to get her nursing license active in Texas so she could practice and be an independent woman. The heart conversation was supposed to be about the fate of their kids. Mata was impatient. He poked Pellet further, asking if he was involved in Maria's death. He questioned where her body was found. Pellet narrated that he moved her body to the loft area so he could access the door faster when paramedics arrived. After dragging her there, he then phoned 911. Pellet said there was no way he would hurt his wife even if he were pissed off. Sergeant Mata continued. This time, he wanted to know more about their shower time. Earlier, Pellet said he noticed she was unconscious after they showered together. Mata wondered why a healthy 31-year-old woman would slump. He needed an explanation. Neither he nor Pellet had answers, but soon the reason was obvious. The search warrant unveiled details hidden in plain sight. Typically, a recently used bathroom would be damp. Yet Maria's bathroom was dry, suggesting it served another purpose. As if that's not all, investigators found a needle catheter, syringes, and IV equipment in a medical bag in the house. Why was there a syringe in her home? No one except the killer knew. Ironically, Pellet used to brag about his family on social media. He showed off his beautiful wife and kids at the slightest chance, but all of those stopped for months, leading to his wife's tragic demise. He deleted Maria's pictures and started posting only about himself. It was around the time he met Janet Arredondo, a surgical nurse. The truth about Maria Munoz's death. Pellet told the police that his wife overdosed on clonazepam. Investigators invited his girlfriend for questioning. Eventually, they let them go while waiting for the autopsy report. After an intense procedure, the medical examiner came up with his report. He found no pill residue in her stomach. Not a sign of the drug was found in her system. However, one mark on her skin puzzled investigators. She had a tiny mark on her right arm, suggesting she injected something into her body. The autopsy report was explicit. Marie died from a mixed drug intoxication, but how did it get into her system? Thankfully, Maria's journal was rich. She wrote down memorable moments of her life there. On the day before she died, she wrote, "What is it that I want? What one? Move forward." This sounded like a suicide note. Was this part of her plan to end her life? Did someone facilitate it? Pellet attended Maria's funeral. It was a sad event. He wept profusely and cried over her casket. He gave her his final kisses before bidding her goodbye. However, this did not stop investigators from asking questions. They expanded interrogations to Maria's friends. One such friend was Angela Montoya. She told the police about an event that happened on the Saturday before Maria's death. That day, She confronted Janet at her house after seeing Pellet's car there. She rang the doorbell and gave Pellet an ultimatum. The chaotic scene forced Janet to call the police, who then arrived at her home. By then, Maria had left with Pellet. Later that night, her friend texted her, asking for prayers. It was the time she communicated with Maria. Back to the toxicology findings. Maria Munoz had 0 clonazepam in her system. Instead, she tested positive for Demerol, morphine, Versed, propofol ketamine, lidocaine, and Narcan. These drugs were used during surgery, and one of them is administered only with an IV. Moreover, these drugs were not over-the-counter meds. You get it only from a hospital. Maria had no recorded visit to the hospital in the last few days, therefore all eyes were on Joel Pellet. He either killed her or knew someone who did. Authorities got a warrant and headed to Pellet's home to arrest him. The young man was less dramatic. He knew his time was up. He came out of the house peacefully, with his hands behind his back. Pellet didn't say much, except his request to speak to his attorney. Joel Pellet murder trial. In January 2021, Maricela Jacquemin, Chief Assistant District Attorney for Webb County in Laredo, Texas, was assigned to prosecute Joel Pellet. He was charged with killing his wife. Maricela was joined by Crystal Calderon, Ana Karen, and Karina Rios. The all-female prosecution team was charged with proving that Pellet murdered his wife and the mother of his kids. Prosecutors believe that the nurse slipped sedatives into her drink and injected her with the other drugs. He then waited for her to die before calling 911. Although the prosecution never met Maria Munoz before her death, they gathered pieces of evidence from her journals. She wrote that she suffered lots of emotional abuse from her husband. Most of her injuries left an indelible mark on her heart and mind. She also wrote about the sadness she suffered in her marriage. Matia was depressed and struggled to come out of it. Thankfully, she had her friends and God. Prosecutors noted that although she was going through a tough time, she loved her boys and couldn't wait to spend the future with them. After scrutinizing every page of her journal, prosecutors concluded that she didn't have any suicidal thoughts. The jury found Joel Pellet guilty of murder after 8 days of testimony and 2 hours of deliberation. Before the sentencing, friends and family members took the stand to share their side of the story. The state pushed for a life sentence, but defense attorneys argued for a 5-year sentence. The jury gave its verdict on March 30th, 2023. Pellet was guilty of murder and tampering with evidence. He was sentenced to life and 10 years for tampering with murder, along with a $10,000 fine. Pellet is currently serving his sentence at the Texas Department of Criminal Justice.